our tremendous pleasure to welcome Greg Kelley back onto the program, Liberal M&A for Jacques Cartier, and he's got two big dossiers that we're going to touch on this morning with him. He's the official opposition critic for energy and also for relations with English-speaking Quebecers. Greg, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me on.
I'll give Blanchette the Monsieur Blanchette. You'll get Greg, not Mr. Kelley. All right.
It's all right.
Greg, we could catch up on a whole bunch of things, but the time is limited. So first things first, on the dossier for English-speaking Quebecers, I hear word that there's going to be a motion in the National Assembly around 11 o'clock that concerns healthcare and Anglos. Tell us more.
I'll start from the top. There never should have been a directive from the get-go, but we are stuck with one. And the one thing that I've been hearing from my constituents, from people all across Quebec, is they think or they're worried that they're going to need a certificate in order to get health and social services in this province. When they walk into an institution, someone's going to say, prove to me you're really an Anglophone. And it's a real concern because the directive created tons of confusion. So we're asking the government. We as an opposition, we don't have a lot of tools at our disposal to try to force the hand of the CAC, but we do have motions that we can bring forward, would express the will of the Parliament, and we're asking them to be very clear. You do not need a certificate in order to obtain services in the English language in any of our healthcare institutions when you need help at the hospital or for social services. So we want to make it clear for once, then send it out, to all the CS networks to let them know that this is the case. So we're going to try to hold this CAC government accountable. Mr. Robert said that that's the case, but we haven't seen anything in writing since. So that's what we're going to do. The Liberal Party, we're tabling the motion around 11 o'clock once question period is done, and we'll see what happens.
We will be monitoring that. Now, Greg, is this one of those motions where the hope is it's worded in such a way that everyone's got to vote for it? Even the PQ and the CAC and the Quebec Solidaire, this will be unanimous in the National Assembly, hopefully, that Anglos don't need a certificate to get health care.
Ideally, Elias, I would like to reassure everyone that they don't need to worry about this and that it's clear-cut and that the government will take action to send out another directive to make sure it's very clear. So that's my hope, but I don't know what the other parties are going to do. We're going to have to wait and see when the vote comes up around 11 o'clock.
Is this you putting forward this motion, one of your colleagues? Who's putting it?
It's going to be Andre Fortin, health critic. I'm actually in Montreal taking care of little Abraham this week. So I'm back at home, but I worked on it with him and my colleagues. There's something we said, what can we do when we go back to the National Assembly? It's the first week. How can we tackle this entire issue around the health, the certificate for English-speaking Quebecers? And like I said, one of the tools that are legislative, parliamentary tools at our disposal, they are motions. So we're using our motion today to talk about this.
All right. That's good news to hear. I think our listeners are going to be happy to hear about that. Now let's move on to the other dossier that you handle here, energy. It has been such an interesting couple of weeks. The Super Minister himself leaving government, Pierre Fitzgibbon, calling it quits there. And then this week, what we heard and saw from Michael Sabia, the new energy minister, I'd love for you to unpack. What do you think has been happening here over the last couple of weeks? There seems to be some disagreements coming out from the past, the former members and the current members of the CAQ.
Oh, no, for sure. So I'll start with Mr. Fitzgibbon. And him and the Premier for almost a year and a half now have not seen eye to eye on a lot of things around the energy dossier. Whether it is the question about tariffs one day, increasing for residents, if it is a question of when should you turn off your washing machine and dishwasher, make sure it only rolls in the middle of the night, turn down your heating. Same thing for nuclear energy. I mean, the Premier would say one thing and then Mr. Fitzgibbon would contradict him. So I think Mr. Legault showed Mr. Fitzgibbon the door. And that was a huge, shock to everyone because Mr. Fitzgibbon is an extremely credible economic actor in Quebec. A lot of the economic agenda has been driven by him. There's been some good things he's done, some things we could definitely criticize, but that definitely surprised us all. And then, another thing that's really come to a head has been this criticism from Hydro-Quebec's heads, whether it was Sophie Brochu or if it was Michael Sabia, that the government of Quebec that has driven certain economic policies has perhaps been too generous in giving the energy surpluses that we have to foreign companies that set up here at the sort of disadvantage to Quebec companies who are trying to get the same clean energy. So that was a huge, shocking statement from Mr. Sabia this week in commission when he said, I think the government wasn't generous enough with companies from here, and they were too generous with foreign companies. Something that completely rattled the CAQ government that claims to be super nationalist and, Quebec first. Well, their energy and economic policy doesn't actually follow, their statements in the media. So that was pretty huge. But again, Sophie Brochu said it, that the biggest thing we have to be concerned about is we can't turn Hydro-Quebec into the Dollarama of energy and sell it at a super short rate just to bring in companies that don't necessarily bring tons of economic benefit long-term to the province. I'll take just for an example, like Northville is a great project in theory, but bringing in foreign workers, bringing in technology from abroad, and if one day that plant shuts down, they're going to pack everything up and leave. That's sort of not necessarily the economy you want to build. You prefer to try to invest in companies that are going to bring you knowledge, that are going to bring R&D, hopefully all done at home, create jobs in that way. So in a certain sense, there has not been a good balance between providing energy to companies here that want to grow, that want to decarbonize, and trying to bring in actors from abroad. It's okay to have one or two, but when you're giving multiple companies this energy instead of Quebec ones, that's not fair to entrepreneurs from here who pay their taxes here, who have developed companies here with good paying jobs. So it's been quite a week. The CAQ really seems to have lost tons of credibility on the economic front. And all they seem to be capable of doing is trying to divide Quebecers on identity issues. So, you know what? We're putting their feet to the fire and holding them accountable in question period. And it has not been a great week with the CAQ. And then today we heard Yuri Chiasson, one of their MNAs, is quitting because he just said the CAQ has not lived up to what they promised in 2018.
Greg, listen, thanks for coming on. We'll talk again real soon. And I do appreciate your time. And we'll be watching at 11 o'clock in the National Assembly to see how that goes down.
Perfect. Thanks a lot for having me on air today.
That's Greg Kelley, Liberal MNA for Jacques Cartier, and of course, the official opposition critic on energy matters, also relations with English-speaking Quebecers.